Just because they're celebrities doesn't mean they haven't committed any crimes. People like Khloe Kardashian and Jane Fonda aren't always the first ones to come to mind when you think of a hardened criminal, but some of the people on this list might surprise you. So let's get to counting down the top 10 celebrities you forgot went to prison. Hey guys, I'm your host Bree Room. Welcome back to Top 10 Beyond the Screen. I've got a pretty surprising list for you guys, so let's just jump right into it. At number 10, Amanda Bynes. This one is pretty minor compared to others on this list, but it's still something to note. Amanda Bynes was facing a lot of issues from 2012 to 2014. Her breakdown was publicly exploited, and it seemed like she was making new headlines every week. Among those headlines were her legal troubles and her reputation of going in and out of jail and courtrooms often. Though she faced legal action for allegedly throwing a bomb out of her window, violating her probation, and a number of hit and runs, one of the few times she actually made her way behind bars was after getting charged with a DUI in April of 2012. According to reports, she was arrested by an officer in the early hours of the morning on April 4th, 2012 after sideswiping a police car. While at the scene, Amanda refused to take a breathalyzer or drug test and then was arrested and brought into custody. Amanda spent one day behind bars before making her $5,000 bail. This incident only added to her long list of felonies to come. At number 9, Khloe Kardashian. This instance is a pretty good example of fame getting you out of trouble. Khloe Kardashian was arrested and charged with a DUI and was originally sentenced to probation and community service for her crime, but after violating her probation and skipping her scheduled dates for roadside cleanup as community service, the judge presiding over her case then decided to sentence the Kardashian to 30 days in jail. Khloe's ride to jail was documented on an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which coined the iconic term, "Kim, will you stop taking pictures of yourself? Your sister's going to jail." A whole mood. Fortunately for Khloe, fame does get you a lot, and it seemingly gets you out of jail. 3 hours after being booked, she was released due to overcrowding, but the real reason was because she was famous. There were other women at the correctional facility who knew who she was, and her presence was causing quite a stir, so they let her go in the end. Before I continue, I want to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video. It really helps us out when you do, so if you are enjoying this video so far, please give this video a thumbs up. At number 8, Robert Downey Jr. We all know RDJ as Iron Man, but before he booked the role as the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist, he was a convict. That's right, for those who may not know or may have forgotten, Robert Downey Jr. had actually spent 1 year in prison for violating his probation. In 1996, Robert was arrested after officers found multiple illegal substances as well as a firearm in his car when they pulled him over for speeding. As a result, he was arrested but was granted probation, which included having to complete court-ordered drug tests. After missing several of these drug tests, Downey was then sentenced for up to 3 years in prison in 1999, for which he served 1 year before being released. Though this offense was pretty major at the time, Downey was then pardoned in 2015 for being one of a set number of people that a California judge found to have turned their lives around after 10 or more years following their offenses. RDJ is now booming with success, so it's understandable that this would overshadow his rocky past. At number 7, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton is known for her businesses, her bright and bubbly on-screen persona, and is now known for her advocacy against schools like Provo Canyon, a boarding school where she alleges that she and many other students faced abuse. Though she's now a successful businesswoman, there was a time that she was just a party girl, and this got her into some trouble. Paris was arrested in January 2007 for driving under the influence. For this, she was sentenced to 3 years probation, ordered to pay a $1,500 fine, and was ordered to attend alcohol education classes. Following this offense, she was not allowed to drive, but this didn't stop her, and she was pulled over again by police in February of that same year for speeding and driving without headlights on. This being her second offense resulted in the judge being less lenient on her, and she was sentenced to 45 days in jail. 3 days after being put in jail, her lawyer got her released due to an undisclosed medical condition, which we later learned was anxiety related, but her freedom didn't last too long as she was sent back to jail and was able to serve half her sentence before being released due to good behavior and overcrowding. At number 6, Tim Allen. This is the time of year where people start thinking about Tim Allen. The stores are playing holiday music, commercials are advertising holiday sales, and holiday movies are being dusted off and being enjoyed by all. One of those being the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen. Since he's becoming popular again this time of year, what better time than now to talk about his past crimes? In 1978, Tim Allen was arrested for drug trafficking when he and his accomplice were stopped at the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport in Michigan. The actor and company were caught with nearly 1.5 pounds of that illegal pixie dust, so to speak, and were faced with a sentence of life in prison. The prosecution later approached him with a deal to reduce his sentenced to 3 to 7 years if he agreed to testify against his partner, which he did, but only ended up serving just over 2 years behind bars. Now that you know this little bit of information, good luck watching the Santa Claus now. Halfway through at number 5, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay, much like Amanda Bynes, faced some troubles in the 2010s. Lindsay got busted for some minor offenses, but one of those offenses landed her in jail for a brief time. After having faced DUI charges a few times, Lindsay was put on probation in 2007 and was ordered to attend weekly alcohol education classes. But after having missed quite a number of them, the judge ruled that this was a violation of her parole and therefore sentenced the actress to 90 days in jail. From the moment she was sentenced, there were some people who believed that she would only serve a few weeks of her sentence because LA County correctional facilities were always facing overcrowding, and since so many of the people who were sent there only served 20% of their full sentence if they were there for non-violent crimes, Lindsay would probably be facing the same fate. As predicted, that's exactly what happened, and she only spent about 14 days in jail and spent the rest of her sentence on house arrest. At number 4, Paul McCartney. Now here's one that is guaranteed to surprise you because it sure surprised me. Paul McCartney was arrested in Japan and spent 9 days in jail before being deported from the country after being caught with 8 ounces of marijuana. This happened in 1980, so it was quite some time ago, but still surprising. This all happened shortly after he arrived in the country with his wife, 4 kids, and his band Wings. For the amount of the drug that the Japanese officials found on Paul, he could have faced a sentence of 7 years of hard labor in the country, but luckily he was released after just over a week in custody and he was deported back to England. He and his band were originally there for a short tour, but since their frontman was detained, the shows had to be cancelled and they were ordered to pay a compensation fee of about £1 million to cover the cancellations of their 11 shows. At number 3, Lil Wayne. In 2007, Lil Wayne was arrested for having drugs and illegal weapons on board his tour bus. As the trial went on, the rapper ended up being sentenced to 1 year behind bars after pleading guilty to possession of a firearm. He ended up being sent to Rikers to complete his sentence and was kept away from other inmates on the island because of his fame. Prison life wasn't so bad for the rapper, as he wrote in his memoir about his time at Rikers. He received fan mail, ate sugar, I don't know what that means, I guess just sugar. He watched sports, American Idol, and played cards, and worked out, and read a lot of books. Compared to many other inmate stories of their time at Rikers, Lil Wayne's experience was a walk in the park. In the end, he was released from jail for good behavior after serving 8 months of his sentence. At number 2, Martha Stewart. TV cooking show host Martha Stewart is basically the equivalent to the stereotypical suburban mom who makes pies for her neighbors and works in the garden in the afternoons. Basically the equivalent to Brie Vanderkamp from Desperate Housewives. The only thing that may set her apart from other people like this is the fact that she spent time behind bars. In 2004, Martha was charged and convicted of a few financial crimes, such as lying to federal officers, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. Her eventual conviction resulted in a 5-month jail sentence, as she spent her time confined to the maximum security at the Alderson Federal Prison Camp in West Virginia. She was also sentenced to 5 months of house arrest and 2 years probation. Martha was released in 2005, and though many people thought her image would take a huge beating, it really didn't. She immediately got back on her grind and built her businesses back up. Now, years later, her merchandise is being sold in Walmart, among other stores. She's selling books and all kinds of other stuff. Seeing her success, it's easy to forget that she was ever incarcerated. At number 1, Jane Fonda. You wouldn't think that Jane Fonda was a hardened criminal, but think again. Well, she's not a criminal per se, but she has spent some time in jail, most recently following a string of climate protests. In late 2019, Jane was leading weekly climate change protests, which she called Fire Drill Fridays. Her most recent arrest happened in December of last year, a day before her 82nd birthday, where she and a number of other protesters were detained for participating in the demonstration. This arrest followed 2 more that she had faced as a result of her protests. Jane said that up until this recent string of arrests, she hadn't been behind bars since the 70s. At that point in her early life, Jane was arrested after speaking out against the Vietnam War, although her charges were fraudulent drug trafficking and an officer, both of which were inevitably dropped because they weren't true. I think the bottom line with Jane here is that she's not afraid to use her voice and platform to fight for her beliefs, even if that results in getting arrested multiple times in your life. I know that of the people on this list, some of their cases are more well known than others, but I want to know which one surprised you the most, or which one did you genuinely forget about? Let me know in the comments. But speaking of comments, let's read out some of yours from my last video. Sharon Osbourne defends Amber Heard following libel case. Wilfred Dale says, Sharon Osbourne is projecting. Just cause you and Ozzy beat each other doesn't mean everyone does that. Kinda got a point. I saw a lot of comments being like, oh, you know, you're just comparing, blah, blah, blah. Like, bottom line, you got a point. Moonshine says, thank you for making me smile. I've been going through a lot lately. I'm glad, you know, our videos can make you smile. I know, you know, it's been a tough time this year, so hopefully you're doing better. Sweetheart Elizabeth Vlogs says, I kinda want Amber Heard fired from Aquaman. I think the entirety of the internet wants her fired from Aquaman. Whether or not that's going to happen is out of all of our control, honestly. Rebecca Cox says, hashtag Sharon Osbourne is over party. I mean, I don't know if we can go that far, but it's 2020. I don't know anymore. Thanks for all your comments, guys, and for sticking around until the end of the video. I've been your host, Bree Room, and until next time, stay safe, make good choices, don't go to jail, and stay groovy, friends.